Thank you. Good evening. I'm Seth Beckman, Dean of the College of Fine Arts here at Ball State University, and it is great to be with all of you this evening, whether you're with us in this amazing space or you're with us through the live streaming that we're able to provide as well. This is Sursa Music Hall. It's an amazing place where we come together and hear amazing music by incredible faculty, students, alumni, and guest artists, and we do that throughout the entire year. It's also an incredible space where we come together as a campus for very, very special events like what we're experiencing here tonight. It's about celebrating the very best of who we are and what we do on behalf of all of our communities. And so it's a real thrill to be here to welcome all of you tonight. I'm also grateful. I mentioned collaboration and incredible things that happen on our campus. This has been a pretty special day. And I want to share a bit of gratitude with all of you for my dean colleague, Paige Turner, who's going to be joining all of you right here after I'm done introducing her, Dean of the College of Communication, Information, and Media. This is a true collaboration, and it's because of her that we're all here today, and her programming and her willingness to recognize, again, what we all do so well, and that we're better together when we're doing things collaboratively. So I'm going to stop there. It's great to be with all of you this evening, and now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Paige Turner.
I really don't think it's fair of him to say such nice things and leave the stage and then expect me to actually not get up here and cry. But I will do my best, because what he is saying is so true about everyone at our university. When we think about who we want to be, it's who we want to be together. And having our guest tonight has demonstrated her commitment as well to being together and to helping each other. And I'm so very grateful that we'll get to share this evening with you. So let me please also extend my welcome to those of us who are in person and those virtual to the David Letterman Distinguished Professional Lecture and Workshop Series event, A Conversation with Tiara Thomas. The David Letterman Distinguished Professional Lecture and Workshop Series was established in 2008 through a generous gift from Mr. Letterman, a 1969 Ball State graduate. This series brings major business, media, and academic figures to campus to engage students' discussions about the latest issues in communication, emerging media, and cultural forces shaping our society. We could not be a better speaker for those topics tonight. We are so very honored to welcome our moderator and our 2021 David Letterman Distinguished Professional. First, let me introduce you to Dr. Tate, our moderator. Dr. Gabriel Tate is fascinated with transforming how people see the world they live in. This fascination resulted in him earning a PhD and an MA in intercultural studies and a bachelor in communication with an emphasis in photojournalism. As an associate professor of diversity and media in the Department of Journalism, he incorporates his 25+ years covering news events around the world into the classroom. He mentors and teaches his students to embrace and seek to understand the world in which they live. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tate to the stage. And now let me share some information about our guest, Tiara Thomas. She is an Indianapolis native, the youngest of 3 siblings who did not come from a musical family, I'm told, but I would have to check with her parents who are here with us tonight. Majoring in telecommunication at the only college she applied to, because where else would you apply to go to college? Ball State University. Thomas was planning to work at a radio station or MTV if I didn't get a record deal in college. At her parents' and friends' urging, she began posting covers of songs by Drake and others on YouTube. But a spring break visit to Atlanta in her sophomore year proved to be Thomas's ultimate career break. 2 years later, still balancing her school and work hustles, Thomas posted another YouTube cover from her dorm room that later evolved into her guest role on a platinum hit single, Bad. In March, Miss Thomas won her first Grammy Award for co-writing the 2020 Song of the Year, I Can't Breathe, in collaboration with singer-songwriter Her. The following month, another song co-written by Miss Thomas and Her, Fight for You, from the film Judas and the Black Messiah, won the Academy Award for Best Original Song. While her career has taken her to the other side of the camera, she is still telling stories through her music, stories that are real and compelling. Today, Ms. Thomas has shared her story with our students in workshops with Christoph Thompson and Stan Sollers and Betsy Pike, as students brought songs and music, and she worked with them to see what was possible together. She embodies the spirit of Ball State University, and that is why we are so very pleased to have her back here home with us. Ms. Thomas would like you to be part of tonight's story, so please feel free to place questions in the chat box if you are watching via the live stream, or if you are in person, direct message your questions via Instagram to @BSUCCIM. Those questions will be shared with our moderator, Dr. Tate, as times allow. So now, please join me in welcoming Tiara Thomas to the stage.
Well, I want to welcome you to our campus again. It is such a wonderful opportunity to have you kind of give back to our students and to the community. And so we've received a list of questions. Can you first just tell us what it's like to be back to your alma mater?
Well, first, I just want to say thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be back on campus. Brought back a lot of memories, just seeing some old professors and where I took my classes and all kind of stuff. So that was really cool. It's kind of sad because La Follette's gone.
Okay.
And my first memory of being on campus at Ball State was actually my mom and my dad and my sister moving me into La Follette. And I lived in Unit 824. Okay. And I remember them moving me in and leaving, and I was sitting on the curb outside of La Follette, and I was crying as they were driving away, because I was just thinking, like, dang, who's gonna take care of me, or who's gonna make me breakfast food for dinner? Like my mom. And I just felt like I was scared. And so I sat out there on the curb crying and watched my family drive away, and then I pulled myself together and went back up to my dorm and started my new life and my new journey at Ball State.
Excellent. Well, let's give your parents a hand, because that's a wonderful...
Woo!
So you're from Naptown?
Naptown. Yep.
What did you major in when you were here?
Well, I chose telecommunications based off of a couple of different things. One of the factors being how many math classes I did not have to take. So I only had to take one math class. I just had to hurdle through calculus. And also, I wanted to pick a major where I could get a career in the music business somehow, maybe working for MTV, an internship for MTV or BET or a radio station or something, and I'd be able to slide on my music and I could, put myself on as an artist. So that was my plan of being a telecommunications major, was to, try to work in the radio industry or the music network industry.
Well, I think you've done well for yourself.
Yeah, it worked out.
But when we look at the journey, oftentimes when our students are coming to campus, there is this experience of learning the community and then taking advantage of opportunities. You shared a story about your sophomore year. You went to Atlanta. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my sophomore year here at Ball State, I had never traveled for spring break, with my friends, and that's kind of something that people do. So my friends were like, hey, we should take a trip to Atlanta and, do some networking, because at the time, Atlanta was really hot for the music industry, music execs, rappers, R&B singers. And so we were like, let's go to Atlanta and go to the club and, make some connections. So I called up my mom and dad, and I told them, I was like, I'm going to Atlanta for spring break. And they were like, no, you're not. And they were like, how much money do you even have? I was like, I have $100. And so basically they knew I was going to Atlanta no matter what with my $100. And so they had ended up giving me like $400 or $500 to go to Atlanta, just so, nothing happened to me while I was out there. And we ended up, so the girl that was managing me, she was my friend managing me at the time. She got me a fake ID because I was under 21, and we got into a club called Compound in Atlanta. And she's like, there's Wale. There's Wale. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, go ask him for a picture. And I don't know if you guys know, Wale's a popular rapper from DC. But she's like, go ask him for a picture. So I went up and I asked him for a picture. And he's like, where are you from? And I was like, I'm from Indianapolis. And he's like, oh, okay, what you doing here? And I was like, I'm networking. I sing and play guitar. And he's like, oh, dope. So he ended up introducing me to his business partner. And his business partner was like, all right, I'll give you my phone number. You guys, you leave a voicemail of you singing and playing guitar on my voicemail tonight. I was like, okay. So we go back to the hotel room, and we're like screaming, like we thought we were so on. And so we leave the voicemail of me singing and playing guitar, and he didn't respond. And so we ended up falling asleep. And he sent a text in the morning that was like, sounds pretty good. And so from then, I kind of kept in connection with his business partner. And a few weeks later, he asked me to come out and to work with Wale in the studio. And that's when I took my guitar to the studio, and I played Wale this song that I wrote when I was 15. And he was like, I love that song. And he ended up putting the song on his mixtape, More About Nothing, and calling it The Cloud. And that was my first placement with Wale, and that's when people really started to associate with me with him. So that was really a life-changing experience, to go to Atlanta and meet him. And, we ended up making more music and from then. So, yeah, it was definitely a good experience, that trip to Atlanta.
So I talked to my students about your music video, Bad. And as they were thinking about that song, they thought that it was empowering. Can you explain the themes that exist in your music?
Well, yeah, I definitely the way that song came about, I was actually listening to I was covering a rap song called Some Cut by a group, Trillville. And so I was used to listening to a lot of male rappers that they talk real raunchy, real edgy. And I'm like, man, they can do that. So I wanted to do that, but I wanted to do it in a way where it sounded pretty. So I would be covering these rap songs on my guitar, playing these songs on my guitar and singing the lyrics like really pretty to where you couldn't tell that there was like offensive language. And yeah, so that's how I ended up actually coming up with the hook for Bad. And yeah, it was just, it's a good hook. And I didn't realize, well, Kelson, the guy that produced the song with me, he's down there in the front row. And I remember listening to the song, like, I can't even tell you how many times we listened to it that night, like, whoa, this song is amazing. Like, this is so cool. This is such a good song. Because it was just so edgy and different and raw, and kind of provocative. And so...
Kind of?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Yeah, so it was definitely like something that was different. And I don't think I realized actually how good the song was until it came out and girls were saying like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best song I ever heard in my whole life." And I was like, "Whoa, really?" And I saw people getting tattoos of the lyrics on their stomach and I was like, "No, don't do that." They're like, "'Cause you might not feel that way in a little bit." But that song, I started writing that my senior year at Ball State. And so I just think it's cool how it turned into, what it turned into. So yeah, it is very empowering, and it's like kind of like it's what the guys would say, but for a girl to say it. And I think just listening to all this crazy rap music, these guys saying all this crazy stuff, like I wanted to do that too, but sing it. So yeah.
So you said you signed a contract your senior year?
I signed a contract. Well, I would like to point out that I used to travel a lot while I was in Ball State, back and forth doing shows and going to the studio and stuff like that. And every time I left town, my dad, he didn't know much about the music industry or anything like that, but he always did tell me, don't sign nothing. Every time I left the house, he was like, don't sign nothing. And what did I do? I signed something. Maybe my sophomore and my junior year of high school, or excuse me, here at Ball State, and I stayed tied up in that contract maybe till about 2018, where I was finally able to get out of my contract. So very valuable lesson learned. Yeah, that was tough.
I want to circle back to your experience now that you are one of the distinguished speakers here with David Letterman. There's this long history of persons. Where does that place you in terms of your bucket list of accomplishments?
Well, can you guys still hear me if I hold the mic way back here? Oh, so I didn't have to be right here with it. Okay. It was crazy because I saw David Letterman speak at Ball State. Oprah was a guest speaker, and Rachel Maddow. And so I never thought that I would be the person that Ball State would be asking to come back. And when they did ask me to come speak, I was like, cool, okay, that sounds fun. And then I started thinking about Oprah. And I was just like, well, I'm not Oprah at all, or, David Letterman. So I was definitely really nervous about that. But, just after speaking to some of my friends and stuff, people really want to hear your experience. You don't have to have the Oprah experience or the Oprah dialogue or the Oprah suit. So,
Well, you're looking quite flat
yeah,
there.
thanks. Yeah, so that it's definitely crazy and exciting and kind of like a full circle moment to come back and be able to speak to the students, because I was one of the students sitting out there listening to David Letterman, and one of the things I specifically remember him saying is that he was like a C student, and that made me feel good because I was like, me too, I'm not a C student. Like I had some A's every now and then, but it was fairly average grades. And so I was like, man, David Letterman was like a C student and he's got a building named after him. I could do it.
Well, we will take your money. But, and looking at that, and we're serious about taking your money, thank you. But you have shared on your journey, and I've read a little bit about just kind of pressing through. What do you say to some of our students that are struggling with this identity of, am I really supposed to be in college? How do I navigate? Can you speak to that just a little bit from your own experience that you've shared?
Yeah, well, it's definitely, while I was at Ball State, there was a lot of time where I didn't know what I was doing here. Like, I was just like, I was surprised I even got accepted into Ball State. It was the only school I applied to. Not that I'm like dumb, I'm definitely not dumb, but I was just like, I don't know, I guess I just didn't imagine myself going to college. But when you like in my house growing up, you was either had to, go to the military, go to college. You weren't just sitting around doing nothing. So I was surprised that I was even in college. I was proud of myself, like, dang, man, I done made it to another institution of education. So that was pretty crazy. But yeah, it was definitely hard navigating, especially, I would go some weekends, go do shows, go on tour, or go to the studio on the weekends and then come back Monday and I'll be in class and, it's back to reality. So it's definitely challenging to navigate, but I did want to finish school. That's something that I wanted to do for myself. I always had the little whisper from my parents in the background too, reminding me how much money we took out in student loans and that I needed to finish. So that was another factor. But I wanted to finish school, and at the time I really didn't have another backup plan. I was just trying to make the music work while I was in school. So I was sticking with my plan of graduating school and getting my job at MTV like I was gonna do, like I planned on doing.
So you have a rich history with gospel music, and then you've moved into R&B, hip hop. How have you maintained the roots of growing up with the authenticity of your current journey?
Well, yeah, I definitely love gospel music. And if you look at my Spotify from every year, my recap, Kirk Franklin is my #1 streamed artist on Spotify every year. Because he's my favorite artist. And that's really one of my first memories I have of music. I was influenced by a lot of stuff my dad listened to growing up, but I do remember just like riding around in the backseat of the car and just listening to Kirk Franklin. I just remember how good his music made me feel, and I just loved all the singers that he had. He's the best singers I've ever heard, And I just loved his lyrics, and the music was so powerful. It just makes you want to cry, and he did such a good job at doing gospel music and navigating that in a secular world, getting salt and pepper on your song. And like, he made gospel music cool back in the day. And so, yeah, I love Kirk Franklin. So listening to his melodies and his harmonies and his lyrics and that kind of stuff really influenced me and still influences me now, when I'm writing songs and I'm like, man, what would Kirk Franklin's backup singers do? I'm always listening for different melodies and harmonies and stuff like that. So definitely that soulful and raw type feeling that I got from Kirk Franklin's music, I kind of took that aspect and certain aspects and took that with me, as well as a lot of different aspects of music. I grew up on a lot of different music: John Mayer, Coldplay. I liked listening to Elton John, Sade, Lauryn Hill, like so many different aspects of music that I just, took with me. So,
yeah. Do you think that if someone is looking at your career path, that they should have a good exposure of various artists?
Definitely. I mean, I think about it like this, like someone who wants to be an actress and you're like, oh, what's your favorite movie? You haven't seen any recent movies. Like, in order to be an actress, you got to watch all the movies and see, what the actresses are doing and how they're playing their roles and stuff like that. So it's really the same thing. I feel like it's important to it's easier for you to come up to be more creative when different types of music. You know what I'm saying? If you just know R&B music and you just listen to R&B music, then that's the kind of music you're gonna make. But if you know R&B music and pop music and 80s rock and 90s pop and 90s R&B and all that stuff, then you could pick from those different, get inspiration from so many different genres and kind of create your own sound. And that's kind of what I did.
I just started feeling old as you went 80s and 90s. And I'm like, is she going to get to the 70s? Right? Some of that Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff. Yes. I mean.
70s too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Explain to us your creative process. How do you write? What inspires you? How do you put it on paper?
I get inspired by a lot of different things, and I don't really put it on paper. I just be coming up with stories in my head, or listen to someone else's story, one of my friends' story, or listen to a friend's story and then exaggerate the story, when you tell it yourself, or exaggerate a story about my own life. Or, I could just be inspired by anything. I like to write songs in the car, because you never know what you're going to see while you're in the car. So sometimes I just put on loops or guitar loops or beats or whatever, and I'm driving in the car, and I'll see a dog that I like, and it inspires me to write something. Or I'll see a cute couple, and that inspires me to write something. Or I'll see a restaurant with that fancy name that I like, or a street. There's a street called Jupiter Drive, and it had these bomb-ass houses in L.A., and I was like, man, Jupiter Drive? That sounds like some rich.
Out of this world.
Yeah, that sounds like some out-of-this-world houses. And so I wrote down in my notes on my phone, I was like, Jupiter Drive, write a song called Jupiter Drive. So I'm still working on that. And yeah, I just get inspired by so many different things, Yeah, I like to write songs driving.
So I read that you freestyle?
I be freestyling sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
It depends what you mean. You mean freestyle rap?
Well, yeah.
Well, no, I'm not really a freestyle rapper, but as far as when I was in 5th grade and stuff, we used to do beats on the lunch
See,
table.
I was bumping. I was feeling you for a minute.
Yeah, we used to do beats on the lunch table and stuff, and come up with things like that. But yeah, sometimes, what I told students was the hook for Bad. I essentially freestyled it because sometimes you get lucky as a songwriter and something just comes to you really quickly in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Sometimes you spend 8 hours on a song, sometimes it's a half hour. And so for Bad, it was like that for me. It was very quick, and it just kind of came to me because I was writing the hook based off of a cover that I was doing, and that cover helped me write that hook. And so I just kind of said those words. I never wrote it down. I just sang those lyrics, and I was like, man, that sounds edgy. I like it. Let's go with it.
Good.
Yep.
What's the best advice someone in the music industry has given you? And I'm building that because Dad gave you advice, and then
I was
you
gonna
signed a contract.
I was going to say, really the best advice I've been given is don't sign it. Because they always try to get you to sign something. But I guess the best advice I've gotten as far as being a songwriter, I was signed to a songwriter named Rico Love, and he's an incredible songwriter. And I remember one time he told me, and this always sticks with me every time I write a song and every time I give other people advice about songwriting, there's 1 million songs that come out a year, and a lot of people are talking about the same stuff. But the key to writing an amazing song is saying what everybody else is saying, what everybody else is thinking already, what everyone else has already said, in a way that no one has said it. And so I always think about that when I'm writing songs, trying to say something that is common in a way that everybody's not saying it. And I do that by naming, for example, Drake. I like Drake a lot. He's one of my favorite artists because I like the way he writes. And he says very specific lines. He names specific clubs or a specific car or a specific girl or a specific restaurant or a specific street. And it makes the song unique because you're saying something that is relative to you, a place that is relative to you, a period of time that's relative to you. So that's one thing that I picked up, is just trying to say things differently, something simple, but say it in a different way than, everyone's saying it.
Do you think that aids in your authenticity in being received in the music industry?
I think so. Yeah, because I like to have a certain humor to my songs a little bit. Another one of my big influences, Kanye West. I love him, and I love the stuff I love everything he says. He's funny. He's a funny rapper, and he says very witty things. And so I try to think of, to be witty, or, what my personality, what I would just say out of my mouth. I try to say that in a song. And yeah, I do think that makes it authentic to me because, I'm the one that has my personality. So I try to implement that into my music,
If you had to I keep thinking about these pictures, right, that you talk about. And me being a person who teaches diversity, I start thinking about this idea of pictures in our head, right? What is the best you that if someone looked at you, they would know, I see who she is in all of her complexity?
The best me?
Yes.
Can you like elaborate on that?
Sure, sure. So when you are producing music or when you are singing, how does someone know that they've reached or they've really identified with you, that authentic you, that depth of who you are? That's one of these complex things.
Honesty, the honesty. I think I like to be honest and vulnerable in my songs, and really raw. And so I think when people hear that, they can automatically relate to you because it doesn't sound like you're just, saying cliche things. Some people, when they write songs, they just throw together words that rhyme. And I really try to, the most important process in songwriting for me is the lyrics. And that's what lyrics, me growing up listening to music, that's what hit me the most. And so I really try to hone in and perfect the lyrics because I think that's what really makes people relate to you, how authentic and honest and raw you are in your lyrics. And, you never know you're telling someone's life story. And so I think, with Bad, I wasn't necessarily going through that at the time, but when that song came out and so many girls related to it, I was like, dang, like this is a true story for a lot of people. And so that made me feel really good, and that made me know that I was really relating to my audience, and my audience could relate to me.
There, on Twitter, you talk about your underdog story. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I said my favorite underdog story is about myself.
Okay.
Yeah, cause coming from Indiana, and like I told you, I signed this bad deal while I was in college, and it just kind of really derailed my career after Bad happened. I ended up signing a record deal where I wasn't happy there because of creative differences. They wanted me to be a different kind of artist than I wanted to be. That didn't feel authentic to me. And so, I eventually ended up getting out of my record deal, and I was living in Miami at the time, and I realized, like, dang, I was out of my record deal, but at the same time, I was like, dang, I'm really on my own, and I don't have that big machine behind me anymore, and who's gonna help me, or, I just felt really scared, and so there was a period of time for several years where my career, like, it wasn't going well for me, and I just financially had like fallen on hard times, and I just didn't know what was next for me. I just didn't know what I was gonna do. Living out in LA, I had my mom and dad and my sister and my family supporting me and my management, but I just, a lot of people wrote me off in the industry. Bad came out in 2013, and usually, 2013, it's 2021 now. You don't hear from somebody for a while, they write you off, they don't want to work with you, and so that was really hard for me. And, a lot of people did, say, man, she's done. And that was very discouraging. But for me, I just had to keep pushing and writing music, even when I felt really depressed, or even when like I said, I didn't know what was next for me. I just kept writing these songs because at the end of the day, I knew, I was like, I'm dope. And I know I write dope music, and an opportunity is going to come up for me. And so that's why I just kept going. And so when I talk about the underdog story, it's, so many people wrote me off after things had gone downhill after Bad. And, so to come back and win a Grammy, to be working with her. And a lot of people don't know, but I've been working with her since she was like 15. Before Her was even thought of. And so, you know, I just continued doing that and focusing on myself and just trying to perfect my craft. I ended up, you know, her album that she just dropped recently, Back of My Mind, we had been working on that album for about 4 years, and at some point working on that album, I was broke, you know, but it was fun. I still loved going to the studio and working with her because I felt like I had a purpose, that I was doing something I was elevating myself, I was making myself feel better. So, you know, we had been working on that album for 3-4 years, and I ended up writing like 10 songs on that album that just came out. But yeah, I just had to push through it and just keep believing in myself and know that I'm dope, even though everybody around you, like, they're giving you no's and they're telling you, oh, she's not popping anymore, or she's done, or, you know, I just had to keep believing in myself. So that's why I say I had the big underdog story, because as you guys know, I did win an Oscar. And the Oscar part is crazy, because when I was 12, I said I was going to win a Grammy. And this was when I asked my dad to buy me a guitar, and I was taking my guitar to school and I couldn't play it yet. And I was going around telling people, I'm going to win, I can play guitar. And they were like, play something, but I couldn't play. And I was telling them, yeah, I can play and I'm going to win a Grammy. I don't know why I was talking mess, but yeah.
You were speaking it into
I was
existence.
speaking it into existence, but yeah, never in a million years did I ever consider, like, yeah, I would like to win an Oscar one day. So the fact that the Grammy happened and then the Oscar happened a month after, I was just like, wow, man, like Derrick Rose vibes.
Right. So you bounced back.
Yeah, crazy bounce back. Bounce back more than I expected. So
what's next?
what's next? Well, I've been working on my album for the last, off and on. You know, artists, they always say, oh, I'm working on my album. You be working on your album for like 5 years. But I am working on my album, and I have a good percentage of music done, but that's really, I'm going on tour in October, which I'm excited about because I haven't been on tour in a while. So I'm going on tour with a singer named JoJo, and she was hot back in the, you know, she had some hot songs back in the day, and I had actually DM'd JoJo on Instagram in 2017, and I told her, hey, I'm a big fan, and I want to, you know, write some songs for you. And she never responded, and then maybe a week after the Oscars, she responded to my DM.
You were no longer on red.
No. And she was like, oh my gosh, I feel so crazy, like I didn't see your DM, and
New phone, who this?
yeah. So I actually did. I like JoJo and I like her voice, and I just like singers, people who can sing. And, you know, I can sing too, but I like working with people who can sing like better than me. And that's so fun. And so, yeah, I ended up working with her, and she, like, you know, took a liking to me. So she's like, hey, you should come on tour with me. So, yeah, I'm going to go do that in October. So I'm excited about touring and just finishing up my album, really. So, yeah, excited.
Well, we're going to look forward to it. Question, one night, you talk about being the voice for female liberation. Can you share that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I don't really like that song as an example, but I will say that I am in favor of female liberation. The reason why I say one night, I don't like that song as an example, because I didn't write that song. And that's the song that the label gave to me that they wanted me to sing. And which is fine, it's a cool song, but, you know, I didn't write it. So usually, you know, if I didn't write the song, I like songs I write better. So as far as female empowerment, yeah, I'm all about female empowerment and, you know, women saying what they want to say and doing what they want to do, because guys do it all the time. And, you know, I feel like women are just expected to just kind of like, you know, oh, don't curse, oh, don't do that, oh, don't, you know, yeah, you can look pretty. And, you know, like, that's not what it is being a woman. You know, it's very raw, and, you know, you kind of crazy a little bit. And, you know, so I feel like you should be able to express yourself in the same way that everyone else expresses themselves. And I think that's where I kind of got inspiration from, like I said, listening to a lot of rap music. And I was like, man, y'all talking crazy. And I was like, I want to do that. And but I want to sing it, and I want to make it sound pretty, and I want to, you know, sing it to guitar. and that's going to be my own flair on it, so it doesn't sound so aggressive. So yeah, I like doing that, and I'm definitely for, women speaking their minds and being who they are, and it's but so many people try to tell you, especially I feel like black women, they try to tell you don't have an attitude, or don't be hard to deal with, or don't, it's just so many stipulations on who you can be, and I just feel like people should be able to be themselves and express themselves openly without being judged, or so yeah. Yeah.
What do you want to share? You've been sharing a lot, but what is something that I haven't asked about that is important for us to know?
Well, I think for me, when I was at Ball State, I think it's important to know that I didn't really know what I was doing. So if anybody out there doesn't know what they're doing, that's fine. I think the main thing is just believing in yourself, and I was talking to some of the students today and telling them about not even the music industry, but just the world can be very discouraging. Especially nowadays, you get on Instagram and you see kids that are your age and they're doing this, and they got this kind of car, and they're going on vacation here, and they got these kind of clothes and money, and you feel like you're not doing enough, or you feel like you're not doing the right thing because you're comparing yourself to people, and for me, I just feel like staying grounded in who you are, and I guess not paying attention to so much of the otherness, and believing in yourself and believing in your ability and your own journey, because everybody in here is on their own journey, and your friends or your colleagues or your peers, they may accomplish things or their dreams before you do, but you're still on your journey, and your time's going to come. And so I think that's really important for people to know, that it's not always you're just popular and liked, and sometimes you really got to go through it. And I definitely went through it in the music industry. I've heard a ton of no's. I've walked into record labels and they told me no, and or I've played songs for people. Example, there's a song by her called Come Through featuring Chris Brown. I don't know if you guys heard that song. It's fairly new. Yeah, I wrote that song 4 years ago when I was broke and depressed. And I wrote that song and I sent it around, and people didn't even respond to me to say it's like, oh, this is a dope song. And I felt like it was dope, but people didn't even respond to me. So when I went to the studio with her a couple weeks later, I said, hey, I have this song. And she listened to it and she was like, man, this is dope. So she cut the song, she recorded the song, and that was 4 years ago. And we've written so many songs together, it's very normal for us to make a song and you never hear it again. So we've got lots of songs like that. So I thought this was maybe one of those songs. And she recorded the song, didn't hear anything else about it. And at the top of the year, our manager, because we have the same manager and publisher, came into the room while we were in the studio actually writing Fight for You for Judas and the Black Messiah. And he said, hey, I want to play you guys something. And he played Come Through, and it had Chris Brown on it. And we were like, how'd it get Chris Brown on it? And it's like, I guess somebody sent it, people were sending it around, and Chris liked the song, and he wanted to put a verse on it. So they ended up using that for her single. And I mean, that's just a prime example of believing in something, believing in your work, and not giving up on your ideas if you feel like you have a good idea. And, just sticking with that, because what I learned is, people don't be knowing what they talking about. People, they have their own opinions and stuff, but, it's you can have a vision, and people don't see the exact same vision that you have, and so they'll write you off, but that doesn't mean that your vision's not dope, or that doesn't mean that your ideas are not dope. And so maybe sometimes it's just not the right time, or it's not the right person. And so that's just a small example of, me just keep pushing and keep believing, keep writing songs, even when, you're not where you want to be. So I mean, really, that was really important for me to come back to Ball State and share with the students my story so they could feel encouraged and inspired, on their journey, and know that it's not an easy journey, and you do feel discouraged, and sometimes you like have no idea what you're doing, and sometimes you're like, am I good, or is this dope, or all this self-doubt and negative self-talk. You got to persevere through that. And so that's why I just wanted to come talk to the students and let them know, let them see me. I went to Ball State. I was communications major. I did come to class for the most part. Spent a lot of time in Bracken. We used to call it Club Bracken because we weren't studying there. But yeah, like I just want the students to feel inspired to pursue their dreams, and even being in Muncie, Indiana. I was growing up in Indianapolis, Indiana. I was just like, dang, I got to make it out of Indiana somehow, and I just started putting my stuff up on YouTube. Like, I just want people to know that it's possible, very, very possible to excel, reach your dreams, accomplish your goals, and yeah.
Do you have any professors? Yeah. Any professors that you remember that inspired you?
I had a professor that I was talking about called named Nancy, Miss Nancy Carlson. I liked her a lot, and she was really nice to me. And it was interesting because I didn't think that she would relate to me because, here I am like this hip hop student. And, but for some reason she did relate to me, and she invited me to her house. And I remember going to her house with her and her husband. I took my guitar over there and I played my guitar in her living room. And she pointed out that I said, okay, I'm going to say a curse word in this next song, a bad song. And I was just letting them know, just because I didn't want them to be shocked or anything. That's how, kind of scared I was. I thought people were so conservative. And, so I just had to warn people okay, I'm going to say a bad word, or I'm going to say the N word or an F word. So, yeah, I remember I had spaghetti at her house, and I hung out with her and her husband, and she was always so cool to me. And I can remember, because I didn't want to do bad in school. I was really focused on being an artist, but at the same time, I like to do good. I like to do well at whatever I'm doing. And so I remember going to her office a lot with tears in my eyes, crying like, please, I don't want to fail your class. So, she told me, she's like, you're going to be okay. You're not going to fail my class. And just as long as you, do this, and this, apply yourself here. And so I did that, and my extra credit and stuff. I did get a B+ in your class, too. Yeah, so that was definitely a very good memory of a professor that I had here at Ball State.
You mentioned Judas and the Black Messiah. Mm-hmm. Given this current temperature in our society, what do you believe that film brings out about social movements and empowerment of communities?
Well, with Judas and the Black Messiah, her and I were actually working on her album at the time, and she told me, she said, hey, they want me to write the song for this movie called Judas and the Black Messiah. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds edgy. Well, that sounds crazy. The Black Messiah. Y'all sound like y'all about to be real controversial on this one. So
I am a revolutionary.
Yeah. So I did not know the story of Fred Hampton upon watching that movie. And so we were actually in the studio, and they had a copy of the movie for us to watch in the studio so we could write the song right after. And I was just so shocked. I mean, I knew about the Black Panther Party, but I didn't know the story about Fred Hampton and how young he was, everything that happened with him and the FBI, and I just thought it was crazy. And after that, I mean, I don't think any of us really heard of the story like that. And we were very shocked and just like, wow, this is something they've been doing for years, for decades, to us. And we felt really angry after watching the movie. And I know they wanted us for the ending title song. They wanted it to be a song that was hopeful, not something that was sad, because the movie kind of ends on a sad note. So they didn't want it to be something that was sad. They wanted it to be something that was kind of uplifting and hopeful. And so, the movies take place around in the 70s. And so we sat around in the studio, listened to, a lot of Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye, and kind of got into that vibe of that era of music. And that's how we ended up coming up with Fight for You. And I think that song fits so perfectly with the movie because it was uplifting, and it's about like a continuous fighting then, and we're still fighting now. And so I think that movie was important for people to see because, like myself and like a lot of my friends I knew, we didn't know the story of Fred Hampton. And so I'm happy that they were able to tell that story and get that story out to the world, because that's an important part of history that we don't know about. They don't teach you about that kind of stuff in school. So, I thought that was a really important story to tell.
So you speak about hope. Where's your hope come from?
My hope? I think my hope comes from just believing, almost like faith, faith in believing in something that you can't see. And I've always been hopeful. I think like just throughout my life, even with Ball State, just applying to one school and hopeful that I'll get in, I've always just been believing. And even when things weren't well, I've seen in times in my life where I was scared and where I didn't think that things would work out, and they did work out. And honestly, like, my parents made me feel a lot better. Like, even, when I'm telling you I went through that hard time 4 years ago when I was broke, and I would call my mom and ask her, and I was like, Mom, do you think I'm going to be okay? And she was like, yeah, you're going to be okay, Tierra. And that, like, even, like, that just made me feel better to hear my mom say that. And, that would keep me going, like, for another week. And so I definitely feel like just going through certain situations in my life and coming out okay always made me prepared for the next thing that comes up, that I'm going to be okay. Like, oh, this happened, but you didn't die. And so that's basically kind of how I live my life. Like, man, that happened and it hurt, but you didn't die. And so you know that you'll be okay, and you're hopeful that, things will be better and you'll have other opportunities, and, there's more to come. So, yeah.
That's encouraging. Very encouraging.
It's true. That's true. That's how I kind of live my life, because I have anxiety. And so, I have to be able to hang on to something, because, anybody who has anxiety in here, your mind will tell you all this crazy stuff. And so I just have to hold on to that belief in myself, that initial belief of, and so it helps to be grounded as a person and know who you are and know what you want to do, know what you believe in, because you can always revert back to that no matter what happens to you, and know that you'll be okay. If you didn't die, you'll be okay.
I love this rubric. I'm sorry. I love the rubric. If you don't die, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for our time. Thank you for giving back.
Thanks for having me.
And we look forward to your continued success. And we appreciate this conversation for us to learn a little bit about you and you sharing vulnerably. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.